I've always liked quiet places, spaces where the world feels muted, where the day's demands slip away into silence. Maybe that's why I took this job. Night cleaner at the city's oldest art museum. Nothing glamorous, nothing exciting, just a quiet place to hide from life. Routine has always been my comfort. I keep to myself, follow the rules, keep my world small and predictable. But some places, no matter how familiar, hold secrets that routine can't protect you from. Most nights are the same. I leave work just before sunrise, sleep through the day, wake up, eat, and wait for night to fall again. My apartment is small, but it's enough. It smells faintly of old pages and coffee. I keep my routines tight. There's comfort in sameness. Nothing ever surprises you. But one afternoon, just as the light was dying outside, my phone rang. It never rings. For a long moment, I just stared at it as if I'd forgotten how to answer. On the other end, Mr. Henderson, the museum's head curator. He sounded tired, maybe older than I remembered. He said, "Could you come in tonight? We're short-staffed. I'll make it worth your while." I said yes. What else would I say? I'd always done as I was asked. It's easier to follow orders than to argue. I remember as I hung up, a strange feeling in my stomach. A warning, maybe, or just the weight of change. But I brushed it off. It was just another night. Or so I thought. The museum looks different at night. The city outside is blanketed in snow. The world quiet, all sharp edges softened. Inside, it's all shadows. The marble floors echo every step, every cough, every breath. There's a comfort in that vastness and a loneliness. I've walked these halls so many times I could do it blind. I know the way the light pools beneath the skylight, the way the old radiators clank when the building settles. But tonight, something felt different. I stopped by the security desk to clock in. The old guard, Peter, sat slumped in his chair staring at the monitors. He'd been there forever, it seemed. He never said much, but tonight he looked more tired than usual, his face drawn, his hands trembling ever so slightly. He didn't look up as I entered. He just muttered, "You'll be covering the new wing tonight, the forbidden wing." He glanced up then, his eyes dark and hollow. "I wouldn't go in there if I were you," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I tried to laugh. "You say that every time something new opens." But he didn't smile. He just stood, handed me the ring of keys, and limped off toward the staff entrance. As I watched him go, I felt that warning again. Something deep in my bones, but I shrugged it off. I told myself stories don't hurt you. Only reality does. I'd heard the stories, of course. Every old building has them. Whispers of ghosts, curses, artifacts that should have stayed buried. The forbidden wing had been closed for renovations for as long as anyone could remember. They called it the forbidden wing as a joke, or maybe not. But now it was open, and it was my job to clean it. The air inside felt different, heavier, colder. The shadows seemed longer, the silence more absolute. I shivered, told myself it was just the draft, the old windows. But as I stepped inside, the door creaked shut behind me with a sound that echoed too long, like a warning. Inside, the exhibits were arranged in a long gallery. Ancient stone statues, masks, and artifacts from around the world. Things older than the museum itself. Some displays were so old, their labels had faded to nothing. One in particular, a tall, humanoid statue with blank, staring eyes, seemed to watch me as I passed. I remembered what Peter said. Just respect the rules, that's all. I'd always been good at following rules, but no one had told me what they were. It was only when I returned to the main office to grab supplies that I saw it. A list of rules typed on paper so old the edges curled like dried leaves. The heading read, "Rules for the Forbidden Wing, Night Staff Only." I smiled to myself. More museum superstition. But the first rule caught my eye. One, never turn your back on the ancient artifacts display. It was strange, but so was everything about this place. I tore off a piece of tape, stuck the list to my cart, and rolled it back down the hall. Cleaning is about repetition. The same motions, over and over. Dust, polish, repeat. But tonight, every step felt watched. Every sweep of my cloth was slower than the last. The display cases were cold to the touch. I could see my breath fog the glass as I leaned close. Behind me, the marble floors stretched away, the statues casting warped shadows. As I worked, I found myself glancing back at the ancient artifacts display. Again and again. The eyes of the statues felt like they were tracking me, hollow and judgmental. I tried to keep my back to the wall just in case. I told myself I was being silly, but I did it anyway. Halfway through my rounds, I paused to wipe a smudge from the largest case. My reflection in the glass looked pale, distorted by the old glass. I caught a glimpse of movement behind me. Just a shadow, I thought. But when I turned, the corridor was empty. I shook my head, tried to focus. There was always more to do. I've always prided myself on my attention to detail, but that night nerves got the better of me. A soft clatter echoed behind me, like something falling. I glanced over my shoulder just for a heartbeat. The room felt colder, so cold it bit at my skin. When I looked back, something had changed. The largest statue in the display had shifted. Just a few inches, but I was sure of it. I stepped closer, trying to convince myself I was wrong. The label beneath the statue was written in a language I didn't recognize, the letters twisting before my eyes. I tried to finish my work quickly, but every time I turned away, I felt that gaze, unblinking, inescapable. My hands shook as I cleaned. The silence pressed in, heavy and thick. A whisper seemed to rise from the far end of the gallery. A low, breathy voice I couldn't quite make out. I wheeled my cart back toward the office, desperate for a break, and stopped dead. The list of rules was different. Had it always been this long? A second rule was there now, bold and crisp, like it had been written just now. 2. Recite the cleansing prayer before opening or closing any exhibit. I laughed. It sounded absurd, but something in me, a deep, primal fear, told me not to ignore it. As I whispered the words printed at the bottom of the rule sheet, the air seemed to change. The whispering in the gallery faded, replaced by a low, thrumming silence. But when I glanced at the glass again, my reflection was not alone. Behind me, the statue's face had changed. Its mouth twisted into a silent scream. Time lost meaning. The clock seemed to run backward, then jump forward. My phone's display glitched, then died. The artifacts looked different now. Their eyes seemed alive, wet and watching. A child's laughter echoed from somewhere deep in the wing. A laugh too high and too old. I pressed myself against the wall, the list of rules clutched in my hand. My breath came in shallow bursts. Every so often, I heard footsteps in the next hall, sometimes quick, sometimes dragging, as if something was being pulled. The statues seemed closer, even though I hadn't moved. When I finally dared to turn away, I heard a scraping sound behind me, a stone foot dragging across marble. I spun around, but nothing was there. At least nothing I could see. The list had changed again. 3. Never look directly into the mirror in the ancient artifacts exhibit after midnight. I glanced at the old mirror set in one of the displays. My face looked stretched, unnatural. And behind me, something pale with hair hanging like wet strings over its face. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. The thing behind me grinned, impossibly wide, its eyes empty and black. I stumbled back, breaking the gaze, and the air seemed to snap, like waking from a nightmare. But the fear stayed with me, lodged under my skin. I tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't open. Panic threatened to take over, but I forced myself to breathe, to focus on the rules. I clung to the routine, even as it unraveled. I thought of every lonely night, every mistake, every moment I'd chosen safety over living. Was this the cost? To be trapped in a place that only followed its own rules? The statues seemed to shift, as if crowding closer. The old air was thick with their presence. I whispered the cleansing prayer again and again, hoping it would save me, or at least give me time. But the clock struck 3, then 4, and still the night dragged on. And then the knocking started. Slow at first, then faster, more desperate. The door to the forbidden wing began to close on its own. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. From the other side of the door, a voice called my name. A voice that sounded like Peter, the old guard. Then, like Mr. Henderson. Then, like my own. You didn't follow the rules. You didn't respect the artifacts. You broke the silence. The door slammed shut, plunging everything into darkness. I heard footsteps behind me, closer now. I turned just as a cold hand gripped my shoulder. I woke up in the hospital, a nurse shaking my shoulder. They said they found me unconscious in the hallway, the forbidden wing locked from the inside. No one mentioned the artifacts. No one believed my story. Mr. Henderson shook his head. You're lucky, you know. Not everyone comes back from that wing. I never went back. But sometimes in dreams I hear the knocking. I see the rules. Longer each time as if waiting for someone else to break them.